So I just got done doing some chores in terms of some dishes, doing a little bit of laundry. I was actually going to record the video of me doing that stuff, then I realized if I record me doing my laundry, you can see my underwear. If I record me doing dishes, it gets really, really loud to the mic. So let's just talk about it now after the fact. And what I wanted to share about it is just the idea that these can be really enjoyable activities, in part because of the way they give us an outlet for constant forward progress. Right? This is something that if you're doing creative work, sometimes you got to start entirely over because you got to find a different direction wasn't working, right? If you're doing business stuff, sometimes you find out you spent 2 or 3 years on what turned out to be the wrong thing entirely. If it's doing engineering work, occasionally you're programming something and you kind of find yourself tucked into a corner, find you got to back out, untie some things, do some refactoring. Any type of game development work or general kinds of career level skills often involve lots of back and forth, lots of, you can't just make continuous, steady forward progress in as straightforward a way. But man, when you're doing dishes, right, when you're vacuuming, when you're doing laundry, it's just constant forward progress, step by step by step by step. And there's a satisfaction that comes from that steady progress. And yeah, I mean, you got to do it repetitively. And some people that's sort of what wears on them. But you got to keep in mind, too, when you're doing these things, especially if you're doing things where you have a partner you live with or a family, then ultimately it's helping them, too. And that's, of course, another form that makes it kind of rewarding and enjoyable. Or even if you don't yet, but you may in the future, you can think of it as kind of practice at enjoying and preparing, being proficient at, and having a positive attitude towards these kind of just self-care tasks that are necessary. It's a little bit like knitting, right? It's constant forward progress. It's kind of a therapeutic value to it. Another reason why it's worth enjoying is because you have to do it anyway. And I think that if we look at around the world, we'll see plenty of people who, despite doing exactly the same thing one day after another, some are way happier about it, some are way more negative about it. And it comes down to what aspects of it they focus on. And I'm not saying everything has to be imagined to be roses all the time or that you have to ignore what's hard about life or anything like that. It's not this about at all. This is the point that when people walk their dogs, every single morning, people who have dogs, and I have cat, so she, basically walks herself. But when people have dogs, there are people who feel like they have to walk their dog in the morning, and there's people who get to walk their dog in the morning. And I can assure you the difference in attitude that comes from those two people as a way of starting off the day is massively different. In a way that one day to the next, those kind of differences can add up in terms of their positivity to people around them, in terms of their spring when they get out of bed. And this applies to anything you have to do, right? And I say have to do within some sort of margin, right? I mean, if you have to do it because you put yourself into school, then you have to do it. If you have to do it because you gave yourself a certain job at a certain workplace, then yeah, you have to do it until you make a decision to get off that track. Again, if you have to do it, may as well find the positive to it. May as well figure out what's the way I can grow or benefit from this, if only in practicing my patience with it, and practicing having a positive perspective on it, and practicing, maybe in sometimes, I think it's worth taking stock of how grateful we can be for the kinds of problems that we have. I know sometimes we hear these things of first world problems, or hear these kind of things about, well, someone in the world has it worse. But really, let's just kind of zoom out for a moment and think about the problems that you have in your life are in many cases so much better than even the problems that a king or a queen had hundreds of years ago. In terms of their situation, in terms of their options, right? I mean, if we that at the very least, for the most part, if something happens to us and we have an illness, at least by now they know what the name of that illness is because someone's had it before. And so they have some sort of steps they can do about it. Again, to be grateful for, like, okay, well, at least this is my chore instead of something worse. Because I can assure you, elsewhere in the world, or certainly elsewhere in the most of human history, the chores were a lot worse than what they are today. Find enjoyment in the stuff you have to do anyway. May as well, right? And that sort of positive attitude towards it can help steer you back towards keeping your energy up for when you do the other things. Because I think oftentimes when people feel like they're not getting as much as they can out of their off hours, the day job is in many cases not what's grinding them down so much as the state of mind that they let themselves have while they're doing it. And again, you'll see people come out of 8 hours of working, any kind of work. Some people on their way up for the evening in terms of their energy level explosive and happy and high and riding on the freedom that they have now and riding on the fact they had that job and that they're grateful for that money and that they're in a good situation in life on a decent track. It's a different way to approach the world than if you let it wear at you where every single minute you're there, you let yourself hate it and you bear down on yourself. It's like listening to someone complain for 8 hours, except the person's stuck in your head and you can't get away from them. You may as well find a way to find an appreciation for the things you have to do anyway. So thank you for following along. As always, I'll have another video for you all tomorrow. Oh, actually, you know what? I almost forgot to do one of these. How about think of something that you find, even though you have to do it, that with the right state of mind, you find it kind of relaxing, kind of recovering, kind of positive, kind of a way of feeling like you're able to, you know, just relax a little bit with some steady forward progress. Can kind of turn the brain off for a little bit, go into autopilot. What's some things that in your life someone else might think of as a chore or a hassle that you found a way to have a positive outlook while you're doing? Thanks again.